Okay. Thanks. Okay, I'll get better as we go through the technology. But welcome to tonight's webinar. It's going to be on sharing and inviting. Now, if you were to be asked by anybody what the doTERRA business is all about, this is pretty much the solid foundation of the business. It's all about sharing. So tonight's PowerPoint, we're going to go through the basics of sharing, what the best ways of doing that are, and how we can invite people to come to a class, because of course it's at the class where we get to share with them all the wonderful knowledge that we have about essential oils, and then we can begin to change people's lives. So that is the purpose. So first of all, a bit of accountability. Not that I've got any spies out on you, so I don't know, but this is what I asked you to do last week. I set the challenge at the end of my training, for those of you that listen to that. So I suggested that you buy a resource book. So either the Modern Essentials or the Essential Life book is what I suggest. I also said to buy the Slight Edge book, which is a personal development book. So to start reading that, for those of you that have bought that, and try and do 10 pages a day. The Slight Edge talks about doing little and often, so it's all part of the program, as doing a little bit every single day is going to be the most effective. And then to buy A to Z booklets and sample files so that you're ready to start sampling. Because the homework at the end of this, well, the accountability, the homework at the end of this session is going to be to prepare some samples. So hopefully you have the tools you need to do that. And then the other thing was to learn the key things from doTERRA University that we went through, and also to look at the other suggested resources. So if you haven't done it, that's fine. Just try and do it this week, because if you do these bite-sized things each week, you'll just find that by the end of this month course, you'll be a lot more confident about the doTERRA business. Okay, so from the beginning, what do you need to know to start sharing and to start really going for it with this business? Key point, you need to be able to look up an ailment using the resources. Now, this might sound very simple, but when I first started looking up an ailment in the Modern Essentials book, I was a little bit confused at all the different oils that were listed there. So talk with your upline about that. If you are a little bit stuck. But briefly, just to summarise, they're in colour order. So red, yellow and green. So the oils that are red are the most commonly used and the most commonly effective on most people. So they're the oils I would suggest to sample with if you have them. This can all be found in the book. It is quite straightforward and there's a key and everything. But if you do get a little bit confused, then just ask your upline. So you need to know what an essential oil is, and we went through this last week. So just make sure you're confident at explaining that in a succinct way. And of course, what makes doTERRA essential oils different? So the sourcing and then the CPTG testing. So you don't need to know all the details of the CPTG, but you do want to know the basic tests that are involved, how many there are, and that doTERRA also do some of them out of house. So that helps to give people a bit more credibility in the oils. And then, of course, you want to know the 3 ways you can take the oils, because you'll need to better suggest to someone how to take and use their sample. So all of these things, if you do not know these already, can be found on doTERRA University, also from doTERRA Tools. The doTERRA blog is very good for CPTG, so you can look up the tests there. But likewise also on doTERRA Tools has a good CPTG section on there. And then of course the books. So we covered this, so I'm not going to spend too long on this, but obviously when you're sampling, you must be very confident that you know about essential oil safety, because the last thing you want to do is to give somebody a sample and for them to break one of these safety rules and not have a very nice experience. Don't panic if it does happen, but it's much better to prevent it. So just by knowing these key safety points, you can then explain that to people as you give them the sample. Okay, a few extra tips that we haven't covered. So there are some what we call hot oils in doTERRA, and these include oregano, clove, cinnamon, and peppermint. So with these oils, you just need to make people aware that they do need to dilute these when they're first using them. Now, you may be surprised to see peppermint on there, because we do that in classes, and peppermint's absolutely fine to put a drop on someone's hand and rub it into the back of their neck. But some people are a little bit sensitive to peppermint on the back of their necks. So it's always advised when you're doing that is to have coconut oil with you. And so when you're giving it as a sample to somebody, just because you're not going to be with them, it's important to be a bit cautious with that as well, and tell them to use it. If they're going to use it for their headache, to apply a bit of carrier oil first, just because you don't know how they're going to react. So hot oils are really the oils that have a slight, they're strong, so they have a sensation when you put them on your skin, and particularly for sensitive people, they'll feel it will be a bit uncomfortable. So that's why you always want to dilute those oils, especially oregano. That really is the hottest of the lot. Okay, citrus oils, it's good to note, are photosensitive. So it is best to wait 12 hours before you have direct contact with the sun after applying these oils. So that's only really in relation to when you have it on your face. So it's fine to have it on your hands or on the rest of your body, but your face is where you're going to have the most sun exposure. So it's just good to make people aware of that, just in case. So you need to be able to, the skill you need to be able to do, most of all, is to invite. You want to get people to classes. That's really where it's all at, as I explained at the beginning. And the most effective way that we have found of doing this is through personal inviting, so face-to-face inviting, but it's a lot more powerful and a lot more effective if you give someone a sample so they can have their own experience before they come to a class. That way they're much more likely to want to come and learn more once they've had their experience. Otherwise, for most people, they don't really know what essential oils are about, and even though you tell them that can help manage their health concerns, they probably won't really believe you. So an experience is really quite vital. And then you need to follow up with them, and we'll go through this in a second. And then the next step is to send out a reminder. So those are your 3 steps to get them to a class that we have found are most effective. So this is the skill we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about today. And you'll notice I haven't said sampling, it's sharing. And I like this picture because everyone likes ice cream. And sharing it is really quite simple. You know, you want to share things that you love. And it's not forcing it on somebody, it's offering them something. And that's the key difference between doTERRA and perhaps other businesses where they're trying to push a sale. We're not trying to do that. We're simply trying to share something with others that has really helped us, and we're passionate about helping them. So we really need to remember that our approach is not salesy at all. It's more focused on service, on helping people, and I really like that. So no pushiness. We're looking to meet individual needs. So as far as possible, we're going to try and give a sample that really is going to be relevant to them. So it's specific to their needs. So we set out to help that person, not just to sign them up and have them on our, on our back office. That's not the main focus. It's good to remember that we are the messenger. The oils are the salesmen. So when we've had myself and others of us, my mother-in-law, and all of us really, we're not salespeople in the natural sense of the word, but we are able to sell the essential oils because they do really sell themselves. So we are a solutions provider. There's a problem, health is a problem, and there's not a lot of options for people. They have to use medications because they don't really know of something else to use quite often. So we come along and we provide a solution for that. And that's wonderful. Now, this is something that a few of us have found as we've discussed this. And and I particularly agree with this, that when I do feel nervous, then I think, I realise that I'm focused on me. So, because when I wake up and I think, I want to help people today, and I want to go and find people that these oils can really help, and find people who have got ailments that they're struggling with, that actually fills me with a lot of peace and excitement. And I really want to go and help, and I don't feel nervous at all when I'm approaching people. As soon as I get a bit nervous or self-conscious, I know that I'm focusing too much on me and not on helping them. So in the morning when you wake up, or perhaps when you start your doTERRA sampling time, you can just think in your head, who can I help? Who can I help today? And that's a lovely approach. So on this angle, when you're thinking of who the oils can help, you also want to think, who can the business help? Because let's not forget about that side of it. Through your sampling, you're going to be able to find other people that are going to be just as passionate as you and are going to want to do this as a business. There are tons and tons of people out there who are very passionate about health and helping others. And here is a business that ticks all of those boxes, the flexibility, able to work for yourself, all the things that Nathan's kind of covered. And the compensation plan is such a good plan that you can actually earn a lot of money with this business. So it suits people who want to go for it, or people that just want to earn a little bit of income as well. So there are plenty of people out there who you could probably think who would like to, quit their job and work from home if possible in the future, or who need some extra income. So you can think of it from that angle too. And then what we suggest you do is that you start writing a list of these people. You can either do this mentally. I find it quite helpful to put this down on paper so I can keep track of it. But writing a list of 40 to begin with, and just going through that list and thinking, who's most likely to be a customer or someone that might do the business a little bit. And then other people will probably jump out at you that you think, they could really do the business and I would really love to work with them. So these are the people that you want to start on your list. Now, we have found that you never want to judge and never ever rule anybody out, because it often evolves that people you never even thought of decide that they want to do the business. And also it works the other way too. Some people you think will just jump at the business may not, and that's okay. But the point of doing that is that you start, first of all, sampling those people that you think could be interested in the business. Because when you come to placing people, and when you do the training with Nathan on placements, you'll come to understand that it really helps you if you have a builder on your front line that you can then start placing other people under. So that's why you want to try and find your builders first. But also, as soon as you start finding your builders, then it becomes even more exciting, because then you help your builders develop their business and you start to really see quite a lot more success in your own business. So that's why we suggest going, more for the builders first. Then when you've done your list of 40, then you can expand this to 100. And you might gulp at that thinking, how on earth am I going to know 100 people? You'll be surprised. Once you start thinking of friends and people you just, acquaintances, your hairdresser, all these people, you can come up with 100. Okay, so when you're doing this and you're looking at your potential builders, what's really quite good is to envision your ideal builder. So who would you like to work with? That, I think, is one of the most important keys, because in this business, it is your business and you're going to work very closely with your frontline builders. So it's good to be able to get on with them. Okay, these are some other characteristics that doTERRA has found and we've kind of agreed with that do seem to help someone be more successful at the business. It's not to say that if someone doesn't have these traits, then they're not going to be good at the business. They're just things you might want to think about. So you would want to think, are they an influential person? So do they have lots of contacts that could be interested in the oils? Do they share a similar vision to you? Now this kind of goes alongside when you're envisioning the builder you'd like to work with. Usually the people you get on with and gel with have similar thinking to you and similar mindset, and just their passions and their goals are similar. So when you're building your doTERRA team, each doTERRA team, I guess, is going to have a slightly different feel about it, and that's going to come from you. So you get to create your business and what you stand for, and you want to choose people that are going to fit into that. This is very important too. So are they entrepreneurial? Now, they don't have to have started their own business before, but what I mean by this is their mindset. Is their mindset entrepreneurial? So do they understand that to create a successful business with doTERRA and with any business, you're going to need to invest time and money and energy, and it's not just going to fall into your lap. So doTERRA is a very good business, and it is there for you to make as much money as you would like, and it is easier than quite a lot of things out there, but it's not a piece of cake. It is hard work. You do need to apply yourself, and you do need to invest in these things. And so it's really important that people understand that, because then they'll understand they're building for the future. And once you get that, then you don't mind putting in the hours at the beginning for a little return, because you're really building a solid foundation for your future. And very quickly, you can be making some very good money with doTERRA, but you just need to hold on to that vision at the very beginning. So that's important. Are they a doer or giver? So what I mean by this is, are they people that go out there and make things happen? Or are they someone that like sits there and kind of expects things to come to them without too much effort? So you need people that are going to make something happen. Do they bring skills that align with doTERRA? So this is a bonus. Not everyone on my team is like this. I say if someone was looking at me, they may not think that I particularly bring skills that align with doTERRA. I'm not a health professional, but that is something that, is of consideration. And then this is a bonus. Apparently, women between 35 and 45 with a supportive partner are the most successful in doTERRA in general. But of course, if you're outside that, it doesn't matter. So what other resources do you need? You need your kit, which you all, I'm sure, have now. And these are the other resources you need to be able to share with others. So your books, your resource books to look up the ailments, coconut oil, in case you're going to put some of that in your sample. And of course, you need your sample bottle. The essential oil usage guide is handy. It's not essential, but it is handy, and we'll mention that throughout the training. And then, of course, your stickers, which you get in your welcome pack. So everyone should have some of them. But if you do want to purchase more, because you often run out of the peppermint or the breathe quickly, then you can from your doTERRA back office as well. So you can get endless amounts of stickers. And then something that I've thrown in here is that little lavender bag. You can get them from Amazon. They're very, very reasonable. You can get quite a few for about £3.50 or something. I checked the other day. So it just makes it a bit more professional to hand someone a sample in a bag. So you want to giving someone a sample. Now we have found that it's best to be the most natural with this. Try not to be too rigid about it. Try not to force the issue. So it's good when you're giving a sample, if you know them, if they're a good friend of yours, just be really upfront with them and say, how you started using essential oils, how amazing you're finding them, and give them at least one major ailment if you've had an experience with a major ailment and an oil, and one minor ailment, or kind of give a few examples of minor ailments. And then kind of tell them how you're teaching classes. So I kind of say I teach classes on how you can use essential oils to help with many different health concerns. And then my examples are, I say, for example, my mum uses them to help manage her blood pressure. And I have used it for so many things, such as colds, flus, headaches, and tonsillitis. I just throw a few things out there. And they're usually, very intrigued. And then I just say how amazing I find them, and how I love sharing them with people. And in fact, now I actually teach classes on essential oils and about how people can use them to manage their own health. And then usually if I know them, I'll know of an ailment they have. And I'd say, I've been thinking this could really help with your son's asthma. would you like me to send you a sample? And so that, every time they want a sample. So just something very natural like that. Okay, so one big one. Then ask, if they like a sample. Okay, if you don't know them, then you don't want to just rush in and offer them a sample and immediately start saying how you're an essential oils educator or anything like that. You want to build a relationship first. So just chat about them, focus on them. And before you know it, usually the conversation will end up, you'll ask them what they do, and then they'll usually ask you what you do. And that's a very natural way that you can then just say, I teach classes on how you can use essential oils to help with many different health concerns. And then you can go from there. So it's always good at some point along that conversation to ask them if they're open or if, they're interested in natural medicine. And if they say they are, you can then ask them if they would be interested in having a sample and trying a sample out for themselves. And you can do this by just kind of asking them what specific ailments they have. And if you pull a blank, then this is when I give them the A to Z booklet for them to just flick through. And as they flick through that book, that is quite powerful because they actually see all the different ailments that essential oils can be used to help. And, they're usually quite surprised by that. And then you can help them choose an ailment that's going to be a good thing to sample. And then I always think it's just very important to be genuine. So that's why it's so important that you live the oils first. So if you're using the oils and you're passionate about them and you've obviously got all these experiences, then that just comes out so naturally. So it doesn't matter too much what you say. It's more the way you say it, and people really feel that genuineness. And then, of course, be concerned with their health and wanting to help them. Just going back quickly, when you are talking about giving someone a sample, I'm always very upfront about the fact I do it as a business as well. I don't like to just give someone a sample and then wait for the follow-up to let them know I'm doing the business. That's why I always come in with I teach classes about essential oils, because then they know that you're doing this as a business. And then by saying to them you'd like to give them a sample first and then have them come to a class, then that's really powerful. And you're leaving it in their hands and you're letting them make the choices. So it's not, inviting them to a class straight away and putting that pressure on them when they don't really know anything about it. But you're letting them know that the classes are there and that you'd love them to come to a class, but first of all, you'd really like them to have their own experience. Okay, so what are the ways that you can sample someone? So you can just put an oil on them straight away, and certainly if you're doing a fair, for example, then this is the best way of doing it. You want to give them as much experience as you can there and then. And with some people that don't have any ailments at all and just, you really can't really give them anything, then this is what I would try and do. So hopefully you carry around your key ring or your sample box with your oils in. So you always have some oils with you. And the great ones to put on straight away, of course, are the peppermint, because you can really feel that. So get them to breathe that in. And you can combine this with wild orange because people just love that combination. And then deep blue is a wonderful one to put on if they have got pain as well. And if you don't have those little sachet samples of deep blue, then if you can put it on there and then that's really good. If they're in your home and you can give them some oil to drink, or a peppermint or on guard beadlet, so whatever you can do to just get them to experience the oils. If you can't see them physically, then you can send a sample in the post. I've done this on a number of occasions, so that's really effective too. Of course, the best way that you can do it is to give them a sample specific to their needs. So whether it's through the post or whether to give it to them directly. So that is the best way. Now, when you're giving them a sample, you want to give them some basic instructions. Now, some people like to write this in an email. Some people have tags I've seen. That's quite nice that they've just created, that they can just write down some instructions on there and attach it to the lavender bag. that looks very professional. Anyway, I wouldn't suggest just telling them vocally, because people will forget. And there's a few key things you want to make sure they remember. So in writing down, you want to just list the main safety tips, and then give them some really, really specific instructions on how to use the oil. Remember, these people have not used an essential oil before, and try and remember how you were at the beginning. You know, it is confusing, and although it becomes quite simple and you know, quite easy to us now and obvious, it's not. So make sure you tell them how many drops to use. So it's good to note that the sample bottles, because they're so much smaller than the big 15ml bottles, that the hole in the top is a third the size as in the 15ml bottle. So that means that 1 drop from the 15ml bottle is equivalent to 3 drops in a sample bottle. So when you're wanting people to experience the oils, we know the dosage is normally 1 to 2 drops, you know, every 2 hours. That's the average. But when using the sample bottle, you must tell them to use 3 to 6 drops. Okay, so that's really important. And if it's just a general thing, you can say every 2 hours as needed. If it's acute, you know, they're in a lot of pain, then 15 to 20 minutes is how often they can apply it at the beginning. And if it's something more chronic, we wouldn't be doing actually anything for chronic, so I don't need to get into that. But we did that last session, and that's once in the morning, once in the evening. But we don't ever sample chronic conditions, and I'll come into that in a bit more. So when you're giving your samples, you've given them your sample bottle and the instructions now how to use it. You then want to really plan for the future class and prepare them to have a follow-up, because that's really very, very effective. So you just want to say to them, you know, would it be okay to call you in a couple of days just to check how you've got on with your oil? And it's really so that you can answer any questions. And also at this point, it's good to say that every one of us is different. So some people react very differently to the same oil. So I just want to make sure that you've got the best oil for you as well. So, you know, you want to make them feel like you're not checking up on them, but you actually are following up on them again out of concern and wanting to make sure they get the best experience that they can. And then just throw in there that, you know, when I follow up, when I call you, we can chat about the classes then if you'd like to come to one. Very, very important when giving someone a sample is that you must take their contact details. It doesn't count if you just give them yours and give them a sample, because it's amazing. Even if they have the best experience ever, the likelihood of them calling you and telling you that is very, very slim. So don't expect them to call you. So you must take their contact details. Then I suggest that you start a spreadsheet, even from the very beginning, whether you just do it on paper to begin with. I suggest doing it in Excel, because it will be, you know, you'll be surprised at how soon it all expands, and you need to have an Excel spreadsheet anyway. So you might as well start doing it in Excel. And these are the key things you want to note. Their name, their email address. Definitely get a telephone number off them, because it's much better to follow up either by the phone or face-to-face again. And then make a note of the sample given, because you will lose track of that. You'll forget, and what ailment it was for. And then you can put a column for when you're going to follow up, and then tick that when you've done it, and then the date coming to a class, and so on. So we mentioned briefly, but let's just go through some examples of good things that you can sample. So as I mentioned, you don't want to sample anything that's chronic, anything that's ongoing. Is not going to be very good. And that is because the whole purpose of a sample is to give someone an experience. So if it's chronic, the likelihood of them getting that really strong black and white experience that this oil has helped them is very, very slim, because it's usually, you know, the oil will work over time with the ailment. So you want to have something that's acute, something that's simple to see an effect. So again, you want to avoid mood lifting oils, because that's a little bit wishy-washy and you just really want to see some really solid reactions. So these are all brilliant. Peppermint for headaches, congestion, lemon, lavender and peppermint for the hay fever season when that comes back around, or as an antihistamine. So if anyone has an allergic reaction, then you can put that on them or give that to them. Lavender is very effective on all those things, insect bites, wasp stings. Obviously, it's hard to give someone a sample in anticipation of a wasp sting, but if you happen to be there when someone has a wasp sting or horsefly bite, it's very, very effective. So you can put it on them straight away, and they will remember that. You can give them lavender for sleep. That's effective on most people. I will say that lavender's very, very effective on some people and knocks some people out. With other people, it doesn't seem to put them to sleep. So it is one of the very powerful oils for sleep, but it's not effective on everybody. So we have had Serenity that works very well for sleep, also vetiver or even bergamot. So have a look in your book, and there are other suggestions for sleep if that one doesn't work. Then lavender and melaleuca, very, very good for skin. Lots of different skin conditions, but definitely eczema it's very effective with eczema. And if you do find that lavender and melaleuca by itself isn't producing the results that they were hoping for, then add a little bit of geranium in as well. And you can find this in your book. But with lavender and melaleuca and geranium, I put about equal amounts of each, maybe slightly more geranium. So about 5 drops of each. Digescent is one of our favourite ones to sample because it always seems to produce the results on pretty much everybody. I think maybe there's one person I've had that didn't have the positive reaction. So for so many different things as well that lots of people suffer from. So it's really good. Oregano can be good. So for those certain things, remember though to please tell them to be very careful with it. And if you're advising them to use it on a wart, say, that's on a part of your body, then I would say to put some coconut oil around that area and then just put the oregano directly onto the wart. For something like molluscum, where you have those kind of virus bumps all over your body, those raised bumps, don't put the oregano on each of those areas, on the bumps, because it's usually children that have molluscum and they're very sensitive. All you need to do is just put some oregano on the bottom of their feet. And, we just told people to do that twice a day. So the morning and evening when the children came home from school. And that was very effective. Okay, breathe is brilliant for respiratory conditions and sinusitis. Again, it's quite strong. So when you're advising people to put it on this area, I'd recommend using a carrier oil with that as well. And the melaleuca, very well known for other skin conditions and dandruff and acne. And then deep blue, excellent for any pain. Just to note, with the deep blue, we've personally found that for some things, just one application seems to be enough. And with the sachets that you get, the sample sachets, it's between 2 and 3 doses because you only need a pea size. But for some conditions, for pain, for example, for back pain, sometimes you need a few more applications. So one sachet may not be enough. So it's just worth noting that for some people, they may need another two sachets really to notice the difference. So how do you make a sample? You've chosen your sample, you're going to give somebody. You place 10 to 12 drops into the little sample bottle. So you don't want to fill it up because you could fit way more than that into the sample bottles, because the whole purpose, as I mentioned, is to give them an experience that makes them want to learn more. So it helps them to see the power of the essential oils, but doesn't give them too much to last them a long time. So you want them to use it up and then come to your class and want to learn more. It's worth noting you have to tap the bottles. You've probably all experienced this. They don't just drop out. So just let them know that you have to tap the bottles to get the oil out. Now, something you may want to do is to send them a link. So there's lots of lovely videos that you can send people And that's quite nice because it just adds again some credibility behind the oils, shows them, gives them a bit more confidence that it's a bigger company. So I quite like to send gifts of the earth, for example, off you can get that on YouTube. And then also the intro videos from doTERRA tools are also very good to share. So you've given your sample. You're going to want to call them about 2 days later. Now, if you're going to see them at school or you're going to see them out and about, then you don't need to do that. Don't call them, you're just going to see them. But face-to-face or a phone call is the most effective. Please, please, please do not just send an email. It just does not have the same effect. So if you want to get your business going, you need to take that plunge and do the phone call or the face-to-face contact. Now, there's no need to be nervous about this. This is something that some of us, I was quite nervous at the beginning about doing the follow-up because, just in case it didn't work or, they hadn't used it. I didn't want to feel awkward about that. And we'll cover that in a second. But, don't worry about that. Remember, go back to forgetting about you. This is not about you. It's about helping others. So by following up with them, this is part of the process for them because you've said you're going to, so it would be actually quite rude if you didn't. And it's showing your concern again. Don't think of it as, oh, I'm hounding them or I'm bothering them. You're actually their help to finding a natural solution for their health. And they're going to need some guidance in this. So just ring them up and say, so how did the oil work for you? How did you get on with your lavender sample? And then go from there, depending on what they say. So let's say they had a really good experience. They loved their sample. It did exactly what you said it was going to do. So then you'd go down the road of, I'm so glad you had such a wonderful experience. I really love these oils, and share again with them why you love them, and just say how empowering it is to be able to have something that you can turn to any time of the day that's natural and extremely effective. And then you can say to them, at my classes I teach about so many other ways that you can use these oils to manage your health. Would you like to come to one of them and learn more? And then they'll hopefully say yes, which I'm sure they will. And then you give them the options of classes to come to. This is also good. Yes, I forgot to mention this. So at this point, I'm always as open as I can be about selling the product. So not to, go into much detail about it, but I usually just make a comment like, and at the class, as well as learning about the oils, you can, if you want to, purchase some oils, and I'll tell you how you can do that at the best price. So you kind of set yourself up for that so people know exactly what they are coming to and what to expect. So what if they say no, that they did not have the experience that they were hoping for in their sample? Here are some possible reasons. Some have not used it, okay, and they may not even come out and tell you that straight away, but it will become apparent as you talk to them about it. So be warned with that. Some people forget, they're tiny sample bottles. Some people lose them and they're too embarrassed to say, so they might just say, oh, it didn't work. But actually, when you start exploring, you can realize they didn't even use it. They haven't used it enough. So they may just put 1 drop on. They might not have done the 3 to 6 drops, and they may have just done it once when actually you need to do it a few times. Just having some peppermint because my throat's a bit ticklish. Also, not every oil works on everyone, as you already explained to them. Then the last thing, we have had some experiences where, checked all these things and they still weren't having great effects. And sometimes, and this is a trickier one, but the unhealthy diet or lifestyle, the oils do take a bit longer to work as well. So what to do in this situation when they say no, they haven't had a great experience? Do not panic. Don't get embarrassed and just all flustered and, hang up the phone or walk away. Don't worry at all. This, just act completely normal. This does happen sometimes. This is one sample you've given them. There are so many oils out there, and there will be an oil that can help with that ailment. It's just a matter of finding it. So you try and find out what has happened. So ask those questions to try and lead you to what I just showed you, really, to find out what reason it is. So find out how, if they've tried to use it, how many times, how frequently, etc. And then you can advise the following. So you either advise them to increase the frequency. So perhaps they need to increase it to every 20 minutes for a short period, or increase the amount of drops they used. Try a different application method. That I have found to be very, very effective. For example, when I use DigestZen for myself, it's not very effective for me if I just rub it onto my tummy. But if I take it internally in some water, it's very effective. So everyone is different. That's the great thing about the doTERRA essential oils, is there are 3 ways they can take them. So again, you could suggest taking it in a different way. And then perhaps if you really think it's perhaps the oil just not working on them, if it's lavender for sleep, for example, then you can give them another sample. Now, I would only do this, 2-3 times maximum. You don't want to give too many samples, and then you can just kind of explain to them if that one doesn't work. Just say, well, come to a class and I'll show you so many more oils that can do the same thing, and we'll find the right one. But your chemistry obviously isn't connecting with these oils. That hardly ever happens. So here are some common sampling fears that we've come up with. Most of us in doTERRA do not want to be pushy. We are not pushy salesmen. So don't be pushy. As soon as you feel yourself being pushy, just stop talking, in a non-awkward way. But don't let yourself be pushy. Just suddenly catch yourself and go, do you know what? I don't need to push these oils. They're incredible. They'll sell themselves. And if somebody's not interested, then they're just not ready for it. And that's fine. Just find people that are ready for the oils and are open to them. So be genuine and share naturally. That's my main tips there. And then you won't feel pushy. Come from your heart. So we feel uncomfortable selling to friends. This is one of the big network marketing downers that people do not like about network marketing. Now, I have different opinions about this. So again, we don't want to be pushy at all with our friends. But at the same time, these are the people we care most about, probably, and our family. And so we definitely want to help them with these oils. And because we found something wonderful, we want to share them with them. So that's more the angle you want to take with it. And of course, there's no pressure at all with your friends and family. You don't want them to just feel like they're being flogged a product. But definitely, when you're genuine and you just share that with them about how you really think this could help them as much as it's helped you, then they'll feel that. This is quite a common one that comes up a lot, is that we think the oils are too expensive. And so we're embarrassed to share them because sooner or later, we're going to have to tell them how much it costs. Now, again, this is a personal journey, I would say. At the beginning, I think all of us, most of us, I think there's been maybe a couple of people that have been surprised that they're so cheap. But most people do think they're expensive at the beginning, which is why it's so important that it all comes with education and why these oils would not sell on a shop shelf. But then it's still getting it, out of your own mind that these oils are expensive. Now, when you're comparing them to oils that are not that effective and do not have the purity or the potency of the doTERRA essential oils, that's the only time you're going to think them expensive. Whereas these essential oils, the more you kind of recognize and experience them for yourself with your ailments, then you'll view them as a medicinal oil, a medicinal grade oil, which is actually really reasonable. I think it's set at the exact price it should be. Every single oil is priced according to how much is needed to make that oil. Do you know that it takes 5 lemons to make 1 drop of lemon essential oil? So that is a lot of lemons, and lemons are one of our cheapest oils, but it's because these oils are completely unadulterated and they're not contaminated at all, And because of the extensive testing that doTERRA do, that does cost money, we can be completely confident that what we're putting into our body is 100% pure. And so that is not expensive. And then, of course, when you explain that these oils can last a lifetime, apart from the citrus oils that have a 5-year lifespan, and that because of their potency, you just need 1 drop, 1 to 2 drops a time, and often 1 application's enough, then suddenly, you know, all this builds to the fact that these oils are not expensive. But you need to really believe that yourself and be convinced of that yourself, because if you don't, then that will come over. It will come through, and you will be nervous about telling people about the expense of the oils. So you need to really, I guess, do your own research and continue to use the oils so you have more and more experiences, and then that won't be such an issue for you. For example, here we go. 1 drop of peppermint for a headache, 7 pence. You know, 7 pence to get rid of your headache. I don't think anyone's going to argue at that. And then 1 drop of basil to help your ear infection. That's not very expensive. We are afraid of rejection. We don't need to be. We really don't need to be. Like I said, we're searching for those really who are open to the essential oils and would like to learn more. So we're not being pushy on people. We're giving people the opportunity, but if they say no, then that's absolutely fine. And it's good to know that on average, it takes at least 4 exposures of the essential oils before they buy them. So whether it's talking about them, giving them a sample, following up with them, sending them a link, that's your 4 exposures. So that's why those things are so important doing before you invite them to a class, because that's what most people need. Most people need to be warmed up in that way and introduced to the oils a few times. Now, some people need up to 12 times. That's what the statistics show. So don't feel disheartened if they're not, you know, you've done all of those 4 and they still haven't purchased. It doesn't mean they're a write-off. Keep going and giving them a few more things, a bit more information. Invite them back to another class. So that is the end of our PowerPoint today. So the homework for this week is to prepare at least 20 samples of common ailments. So looking at the ailments that I suggested on the PowerPoint, they're a good place to start. So you have them all ready, so then you can carry them around with you in your handbag and have them ready to give out. Another thing to do is to set your 4 class dates if you're going for it, or just set a date, 1 class, if that's what you want to do. So it's completely up to you, again, the speed and what you want to grow your business. And then once you've set, well, obviously talk to your upline first, so they can come and help you with these classes and set the date with them. Create a spreadsheet, as I mentioned, and then start sampling. So if you haven't already, this is what you want to do, and it's the best way to get your business going. Just take the plunge and just start sharing. And you also learn so much through doing it as well. And you get so many more experiences back, which help to, you know, build your confidence in the oils as well. So it's all very good. And so if you're going for the business, and what I mean by that is, you know, you're putting 15 plus hours a week and you really want to start earning some good money as soon as possible, and you're willing to put the effort into it and make it happen, then I suggest doing 2 samples a day. But that's just a suggestion. So you can do it at any rate or any speed that you want as well. Okay, I'm now going to unmute Becky. And I don't know why they're...
Stop recording. Just stop recording.
Okay.